Let's talk about inline sprayers. They're a wonderful invention for our industry. Why do I say that? Because it makes us more efficient. We can really speed the job up without sacrificing quality. However, all of us at one time or another, if you've been a cleaner like I have for 35 years and you've been out in the field, you might have been upstairs and you pre-sprayed the carpets, and you come downstairs and you go to pre-spray the carpets, and all of a sudden your inline sprayer stops working. Ugh, it's hardly nothing worse than that. You're sitting there sweating bullets, working hard, and what happens? It's just not drawing. The Venturi effect's not happening. You're not drawing up your product. You're just spraying out water on the carpet, and you're not going to get it clean. And you notice it's not going down, so it's really, really irritating. So, where do you start at? Well, let's start with the obvious. And what would that be? Number one is, think about the 180 rule. I call it that because you never want to go above 180 degrees when you're working with an inline sprayer. Why is that? Because it will start to cavitate, and you will lose that Venturi effect. It might draw up some, it might not draw up any, depending on the temperature that's going through there. So keep it below 180 degrees. Another obvious thing is your filters. Make sure your filter is clean and clear. You see this filter here? This is plastic. I like to upgrade my filter to a stainless steel one. However, either way you do it, just make sure that you mixed up your product properly and this isn't all clogged up on you, because if it is, you're not going to get any product through it. It's just that simple. And then there's a secondary filter, which a lot of people don't know about, and most inline sprayers come with. It's located right here, and you notice right here behind the quick disconnect, it's got a filter in there. You want to make sure you take and clean that maybe once a week, once a month, or something like that. Debris gets stuck up in there, you don't get the proper pressure, and then what happens? You'll end up not getting that Venturi effect again. Lastly, another obvious thing would be a poor or a bad quick disconnect. You see the little nipple on here? These can become worn. Inside of here is a little spring clip. You want to make sure that's in there properly. If that's all nice and clear, then more than likely you're not going to have cavitation because of the temperature, and the Venturi effect is going to work properly, and you're going to go ahead and be able to clean properly after that. All right. However, what if you find out that it's just inaccurate? Is it pulling too little? Is it pulling too much? How do you know? Well, let's think about this first of all. If you're using an 8-to-1 sprayer, an 8-to-1 is generally a yellow tip. If you notice the yellow tip in there, that's 8-to-1, it's metered. And an 8-to-1, what that's going to do is giving you approximately 11 to 12 gallons. When you fill this up to the gallon mark, you're going to spray out 11 to 12 gallons at an 8-to-1 ratio. Now, what if you took the yellow tip out of there? What happens then? Then it becomes 4-to-1 on an 8-to-1 sprayer. However, remember this, some sprayers are 9-to-1, but most of them are 8-to-1. If it is 9-to-1 and you pull out the yellow, you want to make sure that you put a gray tip in there, because DEMA recommends using a gray tip to get back to 4-to-1, or you'll be using way too much chemical. So make sure that you have that correct. So more than likely, if you have an 8-to-1, check with your manufacturer or your distributor. That's what we use, is 8-to-1. But we'll take and we'll go ahead and we'll unscrew that out of there. And by taking it out of there, now we're at 4-to-1. Okay, so at 4-to-1, I just feel like I can get a better ratio, because now I can go ahead and use half the chemical that I'm using. Sure, I'm going to go through a little bit faster, but it's going to mix up better, and I feel like it's just a lot more efficient, and I don't leave a lot extra left behind. And on top of it, remember this, that most scoops are 2 ounces. So if it calls for 16 ounces and you're using 8-to-1 with the tip in there, you'll use the full 16 ounces and fill it with water. However, if you're using 4-to-1, which is my preference, you can go ahead and cut your dilution ratios in half. Regardless of what pre-spray you're using, you can go ahead and use half the amount. And you're going to find it just mixes up a lot better, and you'll be coming through the job a whole lot more efficiently. And I think that's really important. Now, think about this. What about your PSI? Is your pressure correct? When these are calibrated from the factory, they're calibrated at 400 PSI. So make sure your calibration is right on the 400 mark, so you can go in and you can calibrate it properly. Now let's suppose you've cleaned all your filters out and you've checked your QDs, you're not over 180 degrees, but you're still not getting hardly any product, or you're finding it's just not drawing properly. You notice it's just not moving down as quick as possible. After you clean for a while, you'll recognize these things are happening. And when it is, and you've done all the other things, then it's probably time to calibrate it. Unfortunately, a lot of carpet cleaners don't know how to calibrate their inline sprayers. So I'm going to show you very easily how to go ahead and do that. What you're basically going to do is take a little 32-ounce measuring cup like this right here. For 8-to-1, you're going to fill it up to the quart mark. For a 4-to-1, you're going to fill it up to the pint mark. Alright? Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your inline sprayer, you're going to fill it to the gallon mark. You're going to take a 2.5 gallon jug like right here. You're going to mark it at the gallon and the pint for the 4-to-1, and you're going to mark it at the gallon and a quart for the 8-to-1. Notice I got two measurements on there. So now what I'm going to do is go fire up the truck mount. I'm going to go ahead and set it at 400 psi. I'm going to go ahead and hook it up. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to spray it into that tank right there. And as it sprays in there, and when it gets up to that mark right there, if it's 4-to-1, this should be emptied out. If it's 8-to-1, this should be emptied out. It's just that simple. So you go ahead and just set it right inside there. Let your metering tip fit right in there with your tube. Let it go right down in there, and it'll draw all that out of there for you. So remember, you have to take this apart. And by the way, this is kind of cool. I like the ones that have the side fill. The side fill is a whole lot easier to fill up. You can take a funnel, stick it right in there. I prefer a radiator type funnel because it's got the larger opening right there. Put it in there and then put my powder right into it. I just find that's a lot more easier to work with. I don't have spillage of material in my back of my truck or all over the unit here. So what you basically want to do is you want to calibrate it. If you're getting too much or too little and this isn't moving properly, go ahead and take your DEMA block. Alright, take it apart. Make sure your gasket is correct. Make sure that the ball and the spring in here, there's a ball and spring, just unscrew this in here. Make sure it's nice and clean. This is actually your check valve. Make sure that's clean. Take an air compressor. Blow through it after you got it apart with the ball and the spring and all out of there. Make sure it's nice and clear. Put it back together. Now if it's still not accurate after you calibrate it the second time, then more likely you're going to have to go ahead and replace the DEMA valve. Alright? Now let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Suppose it's backfilling. And backfilling is when you go ahead and you turn your pressure on and you start to go ahead and start to pre-spray on the carpet, and once you let off your trigger, you notice that the sprayer starts to fill back up and it never empties. That will drive you crazy, okay? Sure, you're getting the Venturi effect, but you're not getting, but it's overfilling, it's filling back up, and you can't stop, or you have to use your ball valve, and you end up getting inaccurate amounts of pre-spray on the carpet, which is going to give you inaccurate cleaning. It's just that simple. It's just not going to clean evenly if you're not putting down the proper amount of product. So backfilling is very simple. There's a very simple solution to it. It's almost always, if not every time, the check valve. It's either the ball is stuck, the spring has lost its spring, or the rubber O-ring is defective, or the Teflon ring. And you can buy the check valve kit. So go in there first of all and clean it. After you clean it real good, put it back together. If that doesn't work, go ahead and rebuild it. If that doesn't work, again, replace the whole DEMA valve. Now there's two different types of DEMA valves on the market. You can get them the whole block assembly like this, complete. It'll have the little 4-to-1 tip in there. Okay, it just screws in, screws out. And it has the cap already built onto it and everything. I prefer this one right here. It's really simple. If you're out in the field and you're working and you just can't get it right, you can just take your tools, pop it apart, pop this right back on, and go right back to work. Because it's very aggravating when it's not working properly. But then there's another type that just comes this way without the cap and not as many parts. I feel like if you're going to go ahead and take it apart, it's not that much more expensive, just a couple dollars more. Get the complete kit. Okay? So now you know how basically, you know how to use everything on here, you know how to use the product. And now I'm going to give you some tips and some tricks, because you want to be as effective and as efficient as possible, like I said earlier, when it comes to applying your pre-spray. Alright, number one is, at the end of the day, take the time and rinse it. Okay, just put some water in there. Some guys will put white vinegar in there, some will put acid rinse in there, and just spray it through and clear it out. Okay, if you're using powders, you're more likely using some alkaline products. The alkalinity just might have a tendency to kind of clog up a little bit. If you take time and rinse it out, you're not going to have that problem, and you're going to get a ton more life out of your DEMA valves and out of your whole system. Number two, when you're using the product, before you go ahead and start spraying, make sure you shake it up real well. just take it and shake it really, really well. Make sure it's diluted. Look down the bottom. If it's not, even shake it up a little bit more. It's really important. Another tip too is if you're cleaning the carpets and you end up going, maybe you pre-sprayed upstairs and you've cleaned it upstairs. Now you're working your way, you get downstairs, you go to spray again, take and shake your pre-spray up again. Good possibility some of the products might have separated, or some of your active ingredients might just fall to the bottom, depending on the quality of the products that you use. We use extremely high quality products, but a lot of companies will use fillers, additives, or cheap products from overseas, and you end up with things that don't dilute or mix as well. So make sure that you use a good quality pre-spray. Another little trick I like to use is you can take a mixing ball like this that you might use in a power drink or a protein drink, and you take, especially when using the side type, remember the side type inline sprayer, you don't have to take off the Velcro strap, unhook the top, and put everything in there. It's really a pain. So I prefer the side fill. It's just so much easier to work with than the other type over there. Now, it's a little tight. You have to squeeze it a little bit, but once you squeeze it, release it in there, now you've got something that will help you mix up your powders. I'm a big proponent in having powders because they basically keep their shelf life a whole lot longer, and you're not paying for water if you're shipping, and you get a lot better dilution ratios, and you get a lot more ready to use product. Very, very important. So it's just very economical and more efficient on top of it. All right, another thing too is you want to make sure that you change your tip every 6 months. The tip on your sprayer, what will happen is it'll start to, especially if it's brass, I prefer stainless steel, but if it's brass, it'll start to open up on you and you're going to get inaccurate amounts. It's recommended by the manufacturer to change it about every 6 months. It's also important to keep extra parts on hand. Keep the DEMA blocks. Keep the check valves on hand. What a big difference if you do that, okay? Another tip is, I like to do this and I teach my employees, is to, when you're filling up your sprayer, fill it halfway with hot water first. And then take and put your product in there, okay? Put your product in, let it go in there, and then go ahead and shake it up really, really good. Put your cap back on. All right, put your cap back on, shake it up extremely well. After you shake it up really good, then go ahead and add the rest of your gallon. And after you add the rest of the gallon, go ahead and shake it up really good. That'll really get it nice and diluted for you. And by then, you've done mixed the product up. You can look at the bottom of it, and you're going to find that it's probably really in good shape. The last thing I'd like to talk about is make sure you use premium synergistic products. You notice here we've got our product line. We use the highest quality products you can find in the industry. How much so? Well, I've been doing this for 35 years. So I know what works and I know what doesn't work. Being the owner of Truckmountforums, I've been able to test 50 different products in the industry, and a lot of them are so similar. So I kind of boiled it down to 4 different pre-sprays. I've got one that's basically made mostly for polyesters. It'll clean nylons too, but polyesters have an affinity for oils. So I like a product like the Secret Formula pre-spray. It's also has a lot of green components to it, so it's basically free and clear. If you need something a little bit stronger, you can move on to our spiked formula, which has our Grout Master mixed right in, and our Pure O2. The advantage of that is if you've got citrus salt already mixed in with your peroxide powder, so you got just the right amounts in it, you don't have too much citrus in there, not too much peroxide, and you've got just the right amount of Grout Master mixed in for it also. Then we've got our Preload 5, which you can find at any Interlink distributor, and that was basically made for, there's 5 different types of soils in America. And so I went and had a product that I wanted to have in brick and mortar stores around the country that people could go ahead and use for all different types of situations, and more likely it'll perform very well all around the country. However, I find that a lot of people are saying that our spiked formula and our secret formula are just really head and shoulders above a lot of things because it's already got your components mixed in there, and it also has a very nice pleasant fragrance to it. We use essential oils, and it's basically like a honeysuckle spice, and people like that a lot. And I've also got rinses that are made just for it, so that's really important. And then for the carpet cleaners who just hit it and get it and just want to move fast and want everything but kitchen sink inside there, we basically got Pro 10K, which is almost kind of like your bio products that are on the market because it has some enzymes in it, has some other cleaning agents in there, and it kind of gives you that other type of chemistry that some people like to use. But it's basically like a bio product on steroids. So that kind of covers for all that. Now, if you don't mind, I'd really appreciate it if you would take the time and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got thousands and thousands of people on there. And every new video that we do, you'll get a notice, that an alert that we have a new video up, and we really appreciate the support. It really helps a lot. Don't forget, we have the forum with over like around 2 million posts on it. It's the largest industry resource. You can type in at any time whatever subject you want to look up. You want to look up inline sprayers, put in Truckmountforums afterwards, and it'll pull you to our site, and it'll give you all the hits on there, and you can find out about anything, any subject that you want. Also, we now have a Facebook group with almost 10,000 members on it. It's the largest one in the industry. So if you need something quick and fast, come in there and post it, and we'll get your answers to you nice and quick. Okay, well, that really covers all the information about the inline sprayers. Remember, like I said, they're a beautiful addition to our industry, but if they're not working properly, there's the pain. A lot of people will move away from them, but you don't have to if you maintain them and you know how to use them properly and you keep them calibrated. I'm Rob Allen with Truckmountforums. Have yourself a great day. Shameless plug time. You know what? If you want to learn more about hot water extraction, VLM, water damage, tile and grout cleaning, chemistry, how to run your business, marketing, you name it, we can handle it. Go to tmfacademy.com. And if you want any of our fine products, you know where to go at tmfshop.net. I'm Rob Allen. Have yourself a great day.